Welcome back, everyone, to Get Real. Well, time to get some context into the conversation, the discussion we are having today, which is about our 73rd Independence Day, the independence of Sri Lanka. Do we really feel Sri Lankan at the moment? Do we feel patriotic enough to love this country? Or are we just trying to find faults with what we have here and try to, praise everyone else and put ourselves down? What does independence mean in this modern day and age? That question I want to pose to my guest, General Daratnayake. Welcome back, sir. He is the 20th Army Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, and currently he's the Chairman of the Ports Authority as well, Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Good to see you once again, General. Before I get into that whole independence conversation, obviously you were in the news very recently with the East Terminal, grabbing the headlines. It's solved now. The government has taken the decision that it will be developed 100% by the Sri Lankan government itself, and there would not be any partnership with any other country. Now, what I learned is the fact that even though in the media and even though on social media, this is being portrayed as a big issue created by the current government, this is not the case. This was something that came, a blessing, a gift from the good governance, I guess.
Yeah, Mahieash, thank you so much for inviting us again. And yes, to answer your question, ECT was in the limelight for last 2-3 weeks. And that's because of the thing that you just mentioned. The previous government put, if I may bluntly say, put us in trouble.
Yeah.
Because when Southern Port was developed in 2008 to 2012, there are 3 terminals to be developed in the southern port of Sri Lanka, and namely the CICT, presently 100% operated by in operation, and is basically operated by a Chinese company and Port Authority. And once again, the Western Terminal and the Eastern Terminal. Eastern Terminal, out of these 3 terminals, according to what we signed agreements, 2 terminals to go on public-private partnership, PPP basis, and
this was in the previous
actually in 2012-13 we signed those agreements, and then 1 terminal of to be done by developed by and operated by Port Authority. So that's how CICT went an open bidding and got the Chinese party. And then ECT, we started doing Ports Authority. Our engineers plan it, our people work it, and about 20% we have already constructed. Out of 1,300 meters of the terminal length, we completed, fully completed 400 meters and 420 meters. And about the quay wall, if you take about 620 meters of quay wall being developed. So then at the last stage of that government, to Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, we went in ordering, about to be ordered, and everything was in place to order the cranes and other required equipment to operationalize ECT, the portion that was developed. So in good governance, the Hapalne came in 2015 and they cancelled that deal. That's one of the unfortunate decisions initially made by that government. Thereafter, they have not gone into ordering the required equipment, and for 5 years nothing happened, not even a small portion was developed. Instead of developing, keep aside development, instead of doing that, what they did, they got India and Japan involved in and signed a memorandum of cooperation in 2019. When 2020 government, 2019, end of 2019, when new government came into power, 2020, so we were there. So the government couldn't immediately take it off, because since we signed international agreement, there's a process of going through. You can't just leave people and ask them to go like that. So that we were going through. Then actually the previously giving Hampantutta and signing with India and Japan about the ECT, there's no proper transfer, no proper process that we have followed in making decisions in a democratic country. But this government, I am happy because they went through, we openly discussed this issue with the trade union, we openly discussed with our professionals, everybody. So thereafter we realized that people are not happy in giving that. So government had to go through the process, and at the end of the day, cabinet decided to appoint two committees. One is called PC, the project committee. The other one is cabinet appointed negotiating committee. Two committees. The project proposal committee projected real facts of the current situation of the port and the future development and all. And then the negotiating committee started negotiating with the parties. We signed with India and Indian government and the Japanese government, according to the MOC we signed, had to nominate people. So Indian government nominated Adani Group, and we discussed with their team here. Then we put across our conditions, terms and conditions. Actually, they couldn't agree to our things, and we finally we stopped, and then we told the government here it is not going to work, and we had to operate TCT. That's how the final decision.
So this was actually a continuation of the original plan by the President Mahieash Rajapaksa back then to develop the ETC completely by the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Now that decision has been rectified once again. And you are going to continue with that proposal.
Absolutely. Now we have to immediately order the required equipment. This actually we started already. We had the plans. There's nothing, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and now everything is in place. We are doing it now. Immediately we start building it. Because Colombo port, I must tell you, as far as the capacity of the Colombo port is concerned, we are very much beyond the limits. Because basically when we operate a port and we maintain always about maximum, you go to maximum 70% of capacity. When you reach 60%, 70%, you go to develop new terminals, new facilities to be developed. That's the system in the port. Otherwise, you can't retain the business. You can't sustain the business. You can't bring in new businesses. This is a very competitive business in the world.
Yeah.
So, in order to be a competitor among the global competitors, we got to maintain like that. But unfortunately, for the last 5-6 years, we went exceeding the limits. We're beyond the capacity. Now, if you look at, we have the capacity of handling about 7 million containers. So, if you take CICT
for a year, or
per year, about 7 million. But we went beyond that. For last 2-3 years, we were beyond that limit. So, now keep aside 70%, we were 100% and plus. So, this is not a sound system. So, immediately we have to operationalize ECT. We have to have the right cranes, right testing. We have to develop, and by somewhat early next year, or mid next year to be precise, we will have another berth ready. At the same time, we are ready with Western Terminal.
Now that's the other issue. Now apparently these trade unions who made a ruckus about the fact about the East Terminal, they could have just had the discussion earlier on with the government and understood the fact that apparently that's not where the government is intending to go. They were not planning on selling the East Terminal from the get-go. It was the good governance who did this. And the Western Terminal, the current President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has clearly stated that he is going to develop this as a joint venture with whatever I think it was with India and Japan. This was mentioned in his election manifesto. He's not reinventing the wheel once again when you move to that phase.
Yeah, absolutely. It is according to his election manifesto, the Eastern Terminal to be operated by Port Authority, and the Western Terminal to be gone on PPP basis. That's it. And based on that, and now is again reverted back to normalcy, normal plan what we had earlier, where ECT will be operated by us. The Western Terminal will be calling for investors to come and operate that.
I mean, I understand the fact that the trade unions are going to start protesting the Western Terminal joint venture as well. what is the plan there in case that happens? I mean, not in case, when it happens. What exactly are you all planning on doing? Because, having disruption in a commercialized port like the Colombo port is not good for business, is not good for the image of the country in general.
You're absolutely right. But as far as the trade union is concerned, we have 30 trade unions in Port Authority, out of which only 1 or 2 is against this giving Western Terminal to outsiders. So it is not giving and bringing in investment. That was the original plan at the inception of the development of this plan. From the inception, we had the same plan because it is nature of business. If you take, as you said, we got to invest. We got to invite investors to come and operate because it's a very competitive, as I told you. It's a very risky business. When you have a risk and a competition, it is sharing it with other stakeholders is very important. So this is international business. Even if you have a terminal, if the shipping lines, the main stakeholders of the business, if the shipping lines are not with us, still the business will not properly come. Then the shipping agents, the trade forwarders, all these stakeholders, terminal operators, all these people, if they are not together, the risk is more. That's why top countries like Singapore, China, other countries, India per se, and all other Western countries, they all won't do it on their own. If you look at the port development system, Mahieash, but about 80% of this business is is having alliances, having investors, having people, they're doing together with others. Only about 20% of the world business of port business is run by individual organizations.
That also general factors in, like when you have a lot of investors, global investors come into a country like Sri Lanka and investing, it also, helps when we have cases like in the UNHRC or when other countries are trying to hammer us on the global stage. When business interests are there on the ground, they look at it in a different manner rather than being very confrontational or coming ahead and fighting against it, because then they have business interest in these parts of the world as well.
You're absolutely right, and here this is very unfortunate, but when we take decisions of this level, this nature, emotions and the political interests come before the commercial and other international geopolitical interests. This is where we have gone wrong. That is why the intellectuals, the academics, the people who are really professionals in this field must come forward. And I saw last 2-3 weeks when we had this issue, a lot of people are talking, people who are talking, even the media going and talking to people, and those people who, I don't know where they come from. they can talk, but real professionals were not properly approached by the media, approached by the professionals also were keeping quiet at this place. I did not see the number of top pillars in this whole industry, shipping lines. And none of the people from shipping lines came on TV and mentioned the nature of the business. Other port operators, the top people, none of those port operators came on TV and explained. The Port Authority and the trade union and some people outside. Yes, the sentiment of the people is very important in a democracy, so that's very good, and people are taking keen interest is very good, but we have to educate people. We have to educate people and say that this is totally an international business, though it is a locally done. So 82% of our business is transshipment. That depends on international involvement. So here we have to understand. So this nature and how it is happening and all these things, we got to educate people. Media must take a leadership in educating people on these lines, and media must go to the right people and get them and interview them and educate the public on these lines. The port operation especially, though we have a one-off business, we have only, not like any other countries, we don't have many ports. We have the port operations. I told once, 99.7% of our imports and exports going through ports. So 90% of the international transfer of goods taken through sea routes. So 70% of sea route operations taking place just 12 kilometers south of us.
Yes.
All these are factors. So comparative advantage that we have, none of the countries around the world has. So then how do we transform this comparative advantage into a competitive advantage?
True.
For that, our professionals, academics, leaders who are competent in this field must come forward and talk, rather than just average people talking about the business.
There is a lot that we need to change in the media as well, for sure. But that's why we have programs like this, so we can educate the people in a manner which sometimes your news bulletin. Thank you for being here on this Independence Day, and I wish you a very happy Independence Day.
Thank you. Wish you the same. Nice. Thank you so much.